Hi, Erica. Hi, Nev. Can you hear me?
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Erica. Hi, Nev.
I am muted. Now I can hear you. And I'm completely blurry. We'll have to fix that. So,
Okay,
all right.
well, while you fix your video, I'm going to introduce you.
All right.
So hello everyone. I am Anna from GreenGeeks, and thank you for joining us today's webinar, Recession and Inflation, Protect Your Business Today, with our guest speaker, Nev Harris, profit expert at nevharris.com. I'm going to introduce you, Nev, in a moment, but glad to have you here, and I hope we can see you a little bit better. You're a little blurry.
Yes. So I must have bumped a button on my camera when I was turning it on. Oh, tech problems. Give me 1 second.
I'll give you a few minutes. Real quick, I want to say a couple of words for those of you who are here and may not be familiar with us. We're a 300% green energy web hosting provider, which essentially means we put back 3 times the power we consume into the grid into the form of renewable energy. And we have been recognized by the US EPA since 2009 as Green Power Partner. We offer share hosting, reseller hosting, VPS, and dedicated server. Now, a couple of things on the webinar. Please go ahead and put your question in the Q&A, and Nev will be answering them at the end of his presentation. You can also chat in the chat room, but remember to select everyone if you want everyone to see what you're discussing. And we are recording this, so you know, and we'll send you the recording in a couple of days. And finally, we enabled live transcription, so you have the ability to enable them during the webinar by going to live transcript and show subtitle. And I am going to introduce Erica, who's here with us from the GreenGeeks teams. Hey, Erica, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. My name is Erica Barbosa. I am from Costa Rica. I work in the partners team at GreenGeeks. And today I'm going to be in the chat assisting your comments and sharing some information. And hope you enjoy today with you.
Thank you. And Nev, do we have you?
Yes, we have me, but I'm still blurry. 1 second.
Yes.
I apologize.
You're still blurry. I'm going to say a few things about you while you fix your video, and we hope to see you, well. So everyone, Nev shows agency owners where the profit is hiding in their business. Nev has owned this agency in the last 7 years, and the Profit Guy started as a passion project, and then at the urge of several friends, became something bigger. Yes, we can see you, great. So Nev has fancy degrees, and he started with the soup and dye job, but found to be insanely boring. And his down-to-earth take on finance for the tech world has led him to being featured in numerous national media outlets. And finally, on a personal note, Nev is shockingly single with no kids. Is that still the case?
No. I met an amazing girlfriend 2 months ago.
Okay.
So, and I told her the only problem with us falling in love is that I'm going to have to change my bio, and I really like my bio.
Yes. Okay. Well, so Nev, do you want to introduce yourself, say something about your company, and start the presentation?
I think you did an excellent job. That's what I do. I help agency owners find the hidden profit in their business. So I'm ready to jump in if you guys are.
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. So, yes, let me share my screen here. Okay, we're going to share desktop to share. All right, yeah. Although that background is very pretty, we actually would like a presentation. So we're going to go to play from the start. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now I'm going to shut this down. Oops, that was not good. You feel free to ask me questions if there's something that you really don't understand. I don't mind stopping and everything like that, but I can't see the chat. So somebody's going to have to say, hey, Nev, shut up. we got a question. And I'm fine with that. So I originally did this presentation for WordCamp, y'all, in Birmingham. And then when I was on the plane, you know, I did this fancy presentation, prepared everything. And was on the plane, you know, all sorts of new financial information was coming out. And I was like, man, I can make this super relevant, but I suck at PowerPoint. I have a designer that creates these amazing slides. So you're going to see a difference between like really cheesy slides and really nicely done slides, because I kind of kept the stuff in because one, people kind of thought it was funny. And two, every time I've given this presentation since, I've been able to make it really up to the moment. And some of the stuff, like I just finished updating some stuff an hour ago with some information that came out this morning. So you're getting like cutting edge stuff right now. All right, so let's get started. So if you want to know the answer to this question, I did remix. So, but first I want to play a game because I like games, and economy and money and finance, that's some boring shit. I mean, honestly, I know it and I talk about it. So we can't just have you falling asleep during this presentation because that wouldn't look good for anybody. So let's get started here. All right. The game we're going to play is you have to guess the year. All right. Now, Mario Brothers was first released. All right. MTV played their inaugural music video, and even though they don't play music videos anymore, but Princess Di and Prince Charles got married. So Raiders of the Lost Ark was the '1 movie at the theater. The ubiquitous sticky note Post-it made its debut. And then Dallas was the '1 TV show on the on TV. So you could put in the chat like what year you think. I always get a kick out of who gets it on what clue, or if anybody does get it. I'll give you a second to put it in the chat. Are there any guesses?
There's 1980s and 1984. And
All right, it was
1985.
1981. So that's the year it was, 1981. So what is the significance of 1981 though, other than, you know, who doesn't like playing guessing games? The significance of 1981 is this the last year that we actually dealt with inflation. You know, so I know I don't have a business in 1981, and I highly doubt anybody on this call had a business in 1981. So we've never run a business in a period of inflation. So what's different about it? You know, and here's another thing that I found when I was researching this stuff. The cost of a gigabyte of storage was $300,000. So you gross that up for inflation, that's well over $1 million, would be well over $1 million today to get a gigabyte of storage in 1981. Although as shocking as that amount is, what really struck me on that is that they even had a gigabyte of storage in 1981. I mean, I didn't hear about a gigabyte till what, 10 so years ago. And then they had gigabytes back before they really had personal computers. So I find that kind of fascinating. Anyways, and then some things don't change though, because the top football teams in 1981 were Oklahoma, Michigan, Georgia, and Alabama. So even though a lot changes, I guess some doesn't change. But now let's jump to 2008. All right. So what was 2008? 2008 was when WordPress was 5. All right. It was when Facebook was 4. And it just started letting people sign up, because if people remember the original Facebook, you had to be a college kid and you had to have a college email address to sign up for Facebook when it came out. So Facebook was just starting to open up to people. The iPhone for crying out loud was brand new. All right. Just right before 2008, no one heard of an iPhone. No one knew what an iPhone was. You know, there was not an app for that before 2008. And then these companies right here that we use every day in our life, they weren't even exist. And Square, Instagram, Pinterest, Slack, Uber, we all use these companies. You know, they didn't even exist in 2008. But there was something else that was special about 2008. It was the last time we had a real recession. Okay, and then you could be like, oh, 2020, you have COVID. Yeah, that was a baby recession. That lasted for like a month and a half. We all are really, really, really scared. And then all of a sudden business was really great by the end of the year. So well, that doesn't count. So all right. And the point of my presentation, though, is at the end of 2023, I don't want you looking like her. I don't want you sitting there looking at your financial statements end of the year. Please tell me you look at your financial statements at the end of the year. Most of you probably don't, but that's okay. I don't want you trying to figure out where your money went at the end of the year because it just didn't turn out as good as it seemed. I want you to know exactly why you were as profitable as you were at the end of the year. Okay, and I want you to be very profitable, and it's possible no matter what the economy does, and that's what we're going to learn. All right, so I have a story. I live in a suburb of Pittsburgh, okay? The airport is on the opposite end of town. Pittsburgh is not a huge city, you know, so I could get to the airport in 25 minutes, all right? I've done it. 3 in the morning coming home when I'm really tired. But on average, it's going to take me 45 to 50 minutes to get there because of traffic during the day, all right? Now, if I plan 25 minutes to get to the airport, I'm going to miss a hell of a lot of flights, but it's possible. Okay. So what I do is I give myself an hour. So, and then I never miss a flight. And what does that have to do with business? If we prepare for things that we know are going to eventually come, they don't hurt us, you know, because I've never missed a flight. And if we prepare for inflation, if we prepare for recessions, they're not going to hurt us. We're going to get right through them. All right. Now I got another story. I love stories. So I have a friend and she was preparing to run a race. Okay. She decided, I want to run a marathon. And so 8 months out, you know, she decided to train. And, you know, the marathon was in July. She starts training in the middle of winter. Okay. But she's dedicated. And she gets her diet right. She works out. She runs outside, even in the cold and everything like that, which I think is absolutely crazy. But she did it, and she really, really prepared for this marathon. And then she got sick and got a horrible cold and couldn't do the marathon and missed the date. Okay. And you can think that's heartbreaking. All that work was wasted, all that effort, all that time. But you're right. She didn't get the event that she was preparing for did not happen, but she was able to get off her cholesterol medicine. She was able to get off her blood pressure medicine. She had a lot more energy to play with her kids. So her life, even though she missed the event she was preparing for because of all the preparation she did, her life was much better. And that's the point of this presentation. I'm not like, don't believe anybody that tells you what's going to happen in the future. Okay. There's a whole $1 trillion financial industry telling you what's going to happen in the future, and they have no idea. They're guessing. Okay. I'm going to lay out some things, I'm going to prepare you for what can happen. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, hey, this maybe what happened, maybe it won't, but that's not the point of it. So if you do everything I tell you and we don't have any more inflation, we don't have a recession, you know, but you do the stuff I tell you, your business is going to be so much better off. So much better off anyways. You're just going to be like my friend who prepared for the marathon and then didn't get to run it. So just keep that in mind that, you know, this may happen, this might not happen, but you do this and I can guarantee you're going to be in a better, more profitable business. All right. So originally this was going to be a Wizard of Oz theme kind of thing. And, but we scrapped that idea. And so, but you know, there's a saying, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, you know, I think it comes from the Wizard of Oz. It was a big advertising campaign right here. And I was thinking about it. Oh yeah, I could still use some of this stuff. And that's when I found Dolly. I never had an opportunity to screw around with it, but it's really, really cool if you have it, you know. So I'm on the plane, you know, traveling to work here in Birmingham, and I'm like, you know, messing around with Dolly saying, hey, give me a lion, you know. So, so we're going to talk about lions and tigers, you know, and the lion in our presentation, in our story here, the lion is going to be inflation. Okay, and see, this is the cheesy slides that I did. The other slides that you just saw were my designer slides. These are my cheesy slides, and trust me, they get worse, so much worse. But yeah, so line is going to represent our inflation. All right, now, right now, inflation, you know, it might be at bay. You know, it looks like, you know, we're containing it, and it's coming way down from, you know, where it was at the towards the end of last year, and that's a good thing. All right, so, and here's a chart that from January and it's kind of goofy, but it's but your PowerPoint skills suck. What this chart says though is that economists predict from a high at the last year of around 9% inflation, that inflation is going to get to 3.1% by December. Typical inflation, 2.5% is where we're comfortable. We've operated our businesses for the last 15 years around 2%. So, and you know, inflation isn't that much of a concern if it's 2%. All right, so 3% isn't that much worse. All right, so that's good. So we have, and I'm going to be looking down at a weird angle. Maybe I'll just turn like this so I can see the laptop. So we have, so recession, inflation, it looks like it's getting under control, right? Well, here's the thing. You know, here's what we don't want to happen. Just like, you know, and when I was using Dolly, I typed in lion dying, swiping with his paw. This is kind of what it gave me. So, so we don't want to get caught by that lion who is just dying, who's just going out, and one last swipe, he knocks our business down. Because, you know, we've all watched those movies where the hero takes out the bad guy and he's celebrating and everything like that. Then the bad guy's one last breath and he shoots the hero and everybody's like really sad. So we don't want that to happen to your business. Okay, so that's why we still, even though inflation looks like it's going to be under control, we still want to be more prepared for it. All right, so this is why we're going to still talk about this kind of stuff. So, so what is inflation? I need to, yep, better. So inflation is kind of a double-edged sword because it causes you to make less money from your agency because your costs are higher, so you're making less money, you're making less profit. But here is the thing, and now my clicker won't work. Okay, cool. I will just, that's easy enough. I will just move this to here. So, but it also, the double-edged sword about this is it also makes your personal expenses in life higher. So now you're making more money in your business life, but your personal life is costing you more money. And that's no fun for anybody. You know, so that's why inflation as a business owner is something to really, really take seriously. And that's why even though we think we're getting it under control, we still want to prepare for it because we don't want to end up like that girl I showed you the picture in the beginning at the end of the year. And that's what inflation could do. It's really creepy. So it really could creep up on you. And because people don't think, oh, it's just 5%, it's 9%, it's 8%. What's the big deal? Well, let me tell you what the big deal is. This is a $100 bill. Okay. Now, in 1968, this $100 bill bought $100 worth of stuff, okay? Fast forward 14 years to 1982, this $100 bill bought $38 worth of stuff. Yeah, lost almost 2/3 of its value because of inflation. And inflation wasn't at like a couple 100% like you see in these third world countries. You know, inflation was in the single digits for a long time. It jumped up into the double digits for just a couple years, but still, over that period of time, it took away 2/3 of the spending power of that $100. So that's why we really want to pay attention to it in our business. Okay, so I want you to have a mind shift here that this year, you know, going into inflation last year, this year, things are going to be different, and we have to approach them differently. You're like, what do you mean, Nev? Let me tell you. So, remember back in the day when we didn't have like everything streaming, or we didn't have DVRs that we could just skip right through the commercials, and you had 3 minutes worth of commercials, okay? And then you had that, but you could fast forward on an old school VCR, and if you pressed the button once, a 3-minute commercial took 90 seconds to get through, and that was still way too long to wait. Okay, so you hit the button twice and you got through at 45 seconds. And that was a lot more palatable. You could wait 45 seconds. But if you're like me, and I think you might have been, a lot of times you got impatient and you're like, well, let me see what I could do. And so you pressed it 4 times. Now 4 times got through the commercials 8 times as fast. So you got through 3 minutes of commercials in 11.25 seconds. Well, by the time you realized what happened, and you pushed play again, you were a couple minutes into your show. Okay, so you always missed, so you always had to go back and rewind because it was just too fast to react to in the moment. You almost had to push fast forward and then push play a couple seconds after to anticipate it. So, yes, I just said that. So what we need to realize about today's environment is the speed of business just went ham on the fast forward button. So things are going to happen a lot faster than we're used to. With 2% inflation and everything like that, it would take a long time for a product or service or something like that to get unprofitable or to start making less money. Not that way anymore. So what we have to do, we have to stop putting our profits on autopilot. Because if we put our profits on autopilot and we don't look at them, all of a sudden we could wake up at the end of the year and look at our profits. But what happened? Inflation happened. That service you're having that you use, that SaaS you use went up 50% in cost. This went up, that went up, the other thing went up. It gets crazy. So because costs are going to be rising, and when they rise, and people use cost a lot of times to raise prices, in big companies have been doing that. They're just starting to look into the egg market because eggs have tripled in price. So in the US at least. So it's crazy because they shouldn't have tripled, but they have, because they're just trying to play off inflation. So here's so how do I stay on top of it, Nev? How do I know if my costs are getting out of control? There's a very, 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 very simple equation that a 3rd grader could do. What you do is you take your overall sales, all the money you bring in, and you divide that by the profit, all the money you take home. So all the money you bring in and divided by all the money you take home, your sales divided by your profit, you multiply it by 100, and that gives you a percentage. Now that percentage means nothing, okay? People like to talk about that percentage, but in the agency world, people run their business completely differently. I've seen people that say they had a 50% profit margin that were running a worse business than people that say they had an 18% profit margin, because it's just how they do that. So why we care about this number, though, don't compare it to your friends because it's going to be inaccurate. Why we have this number is because we want to know the direction that number's moving. Okay, so if that number's 40%, and then the next month we see it drop to 38, and then the month after that 36, then the month after that 30%, then 28%. We know we've lost 12% of our profit. Okay, we've lost almost a third in 4 or 5 months. So then we know, whoa, I have a cost problem, because I'm not nearly as profitable, and I'm making the same sales. Assuming you're making the same sales and everything else being equal, you think to yourself, you want to look at first, I think I might have a cost problem. I think my costs have really risen because my profit margin has gone really down. So all we want to do, calculate that number and then watch it, look at it every month, and it takes 5 seconds to do that. And then you'll always have a feel for it. It's a great number to diagnose any problem. Like you could say, okay, my costs haven't gone up, but maybe your sales have gone down that you didn't realize in something. So it really, this formula really takes in the sales you're making, what you're spending to get them, and what you're able to take from it. So it's a great number in general to watch. So now, what I want to talk to you now is about how, real quickly, how to control inflation, how the government controls inflation. So to weaken inflation, they weaken the economy, because inflation happens because the economy gets too hot. And I'm not going to get into all that, but let me just put it to you this way. Here's what the government tries to do. The government's job is to, in all governments across the world, the government's job is to take water and keep water at a set temperature, okay? And they have a stovetop. They have a gas stovetop. and they have a glass container to put the water in, but that glass container is not stovetop safe, okay? And if you just put it on there, crank up the burner and let it go, boom, that glass is gonna explode because it's not meant to be on the fire. So if you get it on there and it gets too hot, and then you're like, oh shit, I left it on, it's getting too hot, and you grab it immediately and you throw it in an ice bucket, what's gonna happen to that container? It's going to explode again because it can't go from being so hot to so cold without breaking. So the government's job then is to heat that water, take it off, slowly cool it, slowly heat it, slowly cool it. And that is almost impossible. But that is what they try to do. They've done a all right job so far. But so let's keep that in mind. Now, you might have heard of these things. Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, Credit Suisse. There was a banking crisis that happened last month. It means it's boring. It means absolutely nothing like in itself. But what happened was the interest rates have gone up like we all know. And so when interest rates went up, the money that the bank was holding for people, the value of their investments and stuff like that went way down. So it went like actually less. So they didn't have the money to give people who wanted their money back. So, and it caused a huge crisis. So we've kind of moved past that, but there's still some residual effects for it. So the Fed, this was yesterday, we need to be cautious about raising rates after bank failures. So, but if they're cautious about raising rates because they're going to cause more bank failures, then they're letting inflation get out of control. So it's a concern for inflation. But no, not so fast. Bank volatility, just this morning, cuts to, they think is going to cut into economic growth. Economic growth is, lack of economic growth causes a recession. So now we have concerns from this about inflationary pressures and recessionary pressures. Okay, so moving on. So the banking crisis means really nothing to us, but we have to know that it did cause some concerns, it does raise the prospect of inflation and recession. So that makes this all the more important. Now, when the government then tries to control inflation by weakening the economy, and then our tagger comes in and he's like, oh, weakening economy, I got this. I'm going to tear this economy up. I love a weak economy because Tiger's recession. Okay. So he's like, this is supposed to play. So he's like, let me get all my boys, let me get all my Tigers out there, and we're going to go after this economy. Okay, no, next slide. So, but how this is going, it looks like, and I said I had a lot of fun with Ollie. How this is going, though, is that the Tigers' friends, the Tigers' boys that they all mounted up, they ended up maybe being paper tigers, and it looks like we're going to have a lot smoother recession than we once first thought. So things look, so like I said, inflation looks good. Recession worries look good. I mean, we're doing better, a lot better now than we were. Okay. So, but here's the thing, my great graphic right here that I sketched on an iPad, screenshot and put it in a slide, that, we're here, we're the stick figure. And this guy right here, even though his boys ended up being paper tigers, he's still pretty dangerous, even though he might not be that hard. So, and our job is to get to the other side, but we got to get through any type of even little recession we have. Because if we can't get through the recession, we can't get to the other side. So, and who knows, that tiger alone could turn into Rambo Tiger. And if you've seen the movie Rambo, any of the Rambo movies, Rambos could take out an entire foreign army with no problem, just by flexing his biceps. So we don't want to be a victim of Rambo Tiger. All right. Now let's talk about some of the bad news that we hear. Every week almost, it seems like. And this number is actually significantly higher than this. It seems like 100,000 people been laid off in tech. Okay, wow, 100,000 people now. That's scary. But in January alone, the economy added 517,000 jobs. Okay, so that's 5 times more than was laid off in tech. Okay, and then so this chart didn't come through all the way, but this is March. You know, this is that big in January. So March we added 236,000 jobs. February was more than that. This was the pre-pandemic average. So the economy is still adding way more jobs than it did before the pandemic. So we're still in good condition, and this is just an artifact. This turquoise line in the middle there is just, I don't know, it was just in the slide. I couldn't get rid of it. So, but let's look at what happened when these companies announced layoffs too. Dropbox announced that they were going to lay off 2,700 people, and the by year end, they laid off a lot less, and then a year later they had hired everybody back plus more. So announced layoffs don't necessarily mean it's going to happen. Kimberly-Clark announced that they were going to lay off. The light blue part is how much of their workforce they're going to lay off. By the end of the year, again, they didn't lay off anybody and hired more. So you have to take announced layoffs with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they don't even they don't happen nearly to that magnitude. So but how worried should you be as an individual is the question. So because here's the thing, my sister's scared to death about spiders, and I could show her all the charts and the graphs and everything about how beneficial it is to have a spider. It's not going to make her not scared of spiders. Okay, and my job here is not to make you not scared of like recessions, inflation, business issues. My job is to educate you on what they actually mean for your business and how to go about them. So you could be scared of them. It's understandable, be scared of them, but know how to deal with them. Okay, so like when you're scared, when you were a kid and you were scared of the dark, turn on the lights, a night light. You know, that's how you got over that. So this is what I'm doing. I'm not trying to invalidate your worries about it. I'm trying to give you techniques. So but let's look at how worried we should be, and I'm going to go through this super quickly. But this is the stock market from 1950 to 2020. Okay, now there's some major things that happened here. This was the oil embargo. It was super high inflation, like oil stopped coming to this country and everything like that. And if you look at around 1970, I don't know if you could see my mouse pointer, but if you look like right here, or like it was a very low dip. You know, there was when the stock market crashed in 1987. Damn it. There was the Persian Gulf War, there's the 9/11 attacks, there was the tech bubble bursting, there was that global financial crisis in 2008. There's all these things. This is COVID right here, and they look like little blips. When you look at it in a long period of time, these things that look like they were so momentous, so important, so world-ending, ended up being little minor blips in a long-term trend line up. So, you know, I think we could be a little less worried, you know, when we see that, you know, in over time, you know, the economy just takes these in stride. So we're not really going to talk about that. We're not really going to talk about that. So I'm just trying to keep up with time here. So here's the other thing. So when we have good times, okay, when we have good times, we have 69 months. The good times are the greenish blue things right here, and the length at the bottom, the length of the triangle at the bottom of the triangle is how long it lasts. The height of the triangle is how great it was. So how much growth there was, and the little bitty red things are the recessions. Okay, and how impactful they were is how deep they are, and how long they were is how wide they are. So as you could tell, the great times are so much better than the negative times. Okay, on average, the great times last 69 months. On average, the recessions last 10 months. Okay, so the good times are 7 times longer than the bad times. The and the losses like that we experience in the bad times are 1/10 of the gains we get in the good times. So that's a good thing too. So, but you're like, Nev, but why does it feel so differently? It's psychology. They've done tests that if you're walking somewhere and you find $20, you're pretty happy. I found $20. Hell yeah, $20. If you lose that $20, if you're walking somewhere and lose that $20, you feel 3 to 4 times worse losing $20 than gaining $20. It's just psychology. So, now I want to talk to you about something too. Like, why is the stock market misleading? This is important. I mentioned the stock market when we were talking long term, but let's talk about on a day-to-day basis. You turn on the news and you see like whatever country and what happened with your stock market. I could pick any date and time. This happened to be at the end of February. I could pick any date and time and do this same thing. Like from September, from the month of September 2022. The stock market went down 20%. Now, from September 1st, 2022 to October 1st, 2022, do you think your business was worth 20% less? No, you didn't. You didn't even notice that. There was no change, but the stock market was down 20%. If you listen to the news, the world was ending. Now, the first couple weeks of February, it was up 10%. Do you think your business was worth 10% more? Did you feel 10% richer? Did 10% more business come in? Absolutely not, because it means nothing. These short-term changes in the stock market have no effect on your business. None. So just if you ever hear somebody talking about what the stock market did, today or this week or this month or this year, ignore it, because it has no effect on your business. All right. So, we're gonna skip that one. So let's talk about the bright side. All right. There's a huge bright side to recessions, and you're like, no, what are you talking about? How could it be the bright side about something so bad? All those companies in the beginning, in that first slide in 2028, Pinterest, Instagram, Uber, Square, Slack, and I could go on and on and on. All of those started in one of the worst recessions we've witnessed in our lifetime, and that the world ever witnessed, and that was 2008. It was the second worst. And all those businesses started during that recession. They did, and there's about 24 more. And I'll give you another one. Walt Disney World, the ultimate, like, I have extra money to spend. Disney World started during the Great Depression, and it became the Disney of today. So, because here's the thing, recessions, they create opportunity, but the key to them is being prepared. Okay. So if you're prepared for a recession and you get through the recession, remember that little guy, that little tiger standing in the middle of you on the other side? If you're prepared to deal with him, like, there is riches on the other side. I always think of recessions as like forest fires. They're going to be devastating. They're going to burn some shit down. If you have but what it creates is a lot of fertile soil. And they've done this. They'll take an area that's been devastated by forest fires, and they always show you the picture of the charred tree stumps, and it's really sad. What they never show you is the picture 3 to 6 months later, when it's covered with all sorts of new green stuff, all sorts of new vegetation, because the soil was so fertile for new vegetation to grow up. So, and that's what we want to get to. We want our businesses to be in the shape that we can take advantage of the opportunities recessions create. So, so how do we get through recessions? Okay, how do we get through recessions? So I'm gonna skip to the, I did this article, but I'm not gonna go through all this right here. I'm just gonna skip to this. So this, I was worried I wouldn't be able to write on my iPad, so I typed this up. So let's just say you have $2,000 a month in recurring revenue. Okay, you have $2,000 a month coming in from clients no matter what. You have a big hosting package with GreenGeeks, and then you do maintenance plans. So you got $2,000 coming in from that, and you have $4,000 in the bank. Your monthly expenses are $3,000. Okay, so if you never got any new business in, you could cover, you divide 2,000 by 3,000, gives you 0.66, 2/3. So you could cover 2/3 of your monthly expenses just on your recurring revenue. So you'd be $1,000 short every month, but you have $4,000 in the bank. So given that, and you could email me afterwards and I could send you the worksheet, or you could find the article in Business Insider that I did. So given that, you could last 4 months with no new business coming in. And that's kind of reassuring to know that, hey, look, I'm not going to go to business next month if things get really bad. You know, I knew the people that were comforted when COVID happened were the people that one of my clients had 19 months. They didn't worry a thing about. You know, they're like, COVID's moving. You know, the other people that were really panicked because they're like, how am I going to make payroll next month? So, but knowing this number, if it's bad, we know we got to fix this, and we got to fix this before the recession happens. If it's good, we know we don't have to worry about a recession happening. We're going to be ready for it. So it's a great number to know. It just gives you your run rate, how much you could last if you got no more business in. So, we're not going to. So I'm not going to tell you a story about Tiger Woods, but a key here is to think about how can you run your business with 10% less? If you had to cut back 10% of costs, how can you run your business? And then think about how you could run it at 20%. Now, at first, it's going to sound impossible. It's going to seem crazy. But here's the thing. Like, the thing about Tiger Woods, real quick, is like a golfer never thinks about the shot he's going to hit when he hits it, because he's practiced the shot 1,000,000 times. So he just goes up and he hits the ball. Any baseball player, any sports star, anybody that does an activity like that has already figured out how to do that. They're not figuring it out in the moment. If you start thinking about this now, you're going to come up with 100 ideas that do not work, okay? But when things happen, you won't have to waste the time coming up with 100 ideas that don't work, because you'll either have figured out, or you'll be so much closer to figure out the idea that will work. So we start thinking about it now. It seems impossible, but eventually, you know, you'll figure out a way to do this, and then you'll be like, well, you know, actually I could cut those costs, or I could do this, or, you know, and then if the recession happens, you'll be like, I'm ready for it. If it doesn't happen, you're like, shit, I run my business 20% more efficiently. I make 20% more money on my business now because I've already thought about this, and I could just implement this plan right now and be even more profitable. So think about that. This is some other things that I was going to get through, but I don't think we have the time. Here's what you could do if you email me, because I know I do a half-hour version of this talk, and I don't get to this stuff, so I email people out a video of me explaining all these. It's much more comprehensive too. So it's about maybe another 45 minutes, an hour, where I go through all of these and all these different strategies to prepare yourself for recessions. So yes, I did a all right. And then so here's what so wrap up, here's what we know. We know recessions are going to happen, because whether it's going to happen this year or next year, 3 years, 5 years from now, a recession is going to happen. They have to happen. I didn't explain to you why, but just take my word on it. We skipped that slide. And honestly, depending how old you are, you're going to live through about 5 to 9 more recessions. If you're in your late 20s, probably 9. If you're in your late 40s, probably 5. So we know we're going to live through not just one, but multiple recessions, and we know they're not going to be that bad because we saw that chart. So, and if you follow what I'm talking about here, we're going to be prepared, okay? And then we could focus externally. Now, we didn't talk a lot about that, but what I mean is, if you're not so worried about putting out the fires in your business because that the recessions are causing, your mind is open to other ideas. So we're going to skip that. So what are you talking about, other ideas, Nev? I'm talking about, here's, in our little baby recession of 2020, here's the 4 things that if you were involved in 2020, you made a killing. The trends were e-commerce, delivery, telemedicine, and work from home. E-commerce and delivery got like 5-10 years down the road, they were pushed. Everybody loves delivery. A lot of people didn't stop using Instacart. A lot of people do takeout still and do all that kind of stuff still. That wasn't gonna happen. Telemedicine was years away. Work from home would have never happened, ever happened, to the degree it's happened today, because people weren't going to go through that learning curve. But now it's a common thing. So, but if you were the tech people behind this, if you were able to not worry about putting out the fires in your business and putting out the fires in clients that had these issues, you made a killing. And that's what I'm talking about. Be prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that are going to be created by a recession. So I will part with this story. Or I will probably end now because that is my time. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Nev. We have not an official question, but I guess a question from Edward in the chat. We're based on a comment you made to be prepared, the 10%, 20%, I think that's what it was referring to. I would ask, how do we increase our revenue so don't have to worry about running out of money so we don't drain our bank account?
Yes. So there are 2 ways to increase your revenue. That was focused on the cost side. If you cut costs, your profit goes up. Then there's the other way, that is getting business from your existing clients, getting more business from your existing clients, and getting new clients. I would say one of the great ways, being that this is a GreenGeeks webinar, is if you could offer more care plan type features to your clients, more leverage the value of managed hosting, and that you could take to your clients and be like, hey, look, we do all this stuff for you. I know when we first started our agency, we did managed hosting. We charged, I think, $35 a month for it, and we were making $10. Within a year, I had that up to $115 because I clearly elaborated on the value. I sent out reports to people. I said, look, this is the value we're adding for you. And I threw in some development time that cost just a little bit, that cost a little less. That I was already paying my people for, that we just worked into our business cycle. So that is a great way. We had plans for 115 to 250 and 450, and they included stuff like people want, like one of the things I talk about before, people want to talk to you. So people are scared. Like if you include, if in your high-end care plan packages, if you include a half hour worth of consulting time a month, that you're just sitting there and you're being their business therapist. 1, that's gonna make them really sticky to you. 2, they're gonna come up with ideas, from those conversations that are gonna generate business from you. Because it's 7 times harder to get a new client than it is to keep existing clients happy and get business from existing clients. So I would first start by looking at cost. Then I'd move on to how can I get more money from my existing clients. Then I'd look into more of a client attraction strategy. But that's always the hardest and the most expensive and the longest to get right. If that answers his question.
Edward is saying, in this current recession situation, since we repair copiers, it is wise to raise our prices during a time of hard time that our customer businesses are experiencing. I guess it's a specific business, a copy repair business.
I think I'm going to give you this. I never think there's a bad time to raise prices. I think almost every business is underpriced by at least 10%. And so I think, so here's the thing. I'm not one, there's 2 things. I don't think more sales solves all problems. I don't think raising prices solves all problems. I think there's serious issues with those. But I think if you understand your profitability and because if you raise prices on a very unprofitable product, you're still unprofitable. Or if you raise prices a little bit, but you're still spending way too much time of your resources on it, you're still, but if you're in a copy repair business, I would, I definitely think, because I know those are tech parts and stuff like that, and plastic and all that kind of stuff. Your costs had to have gone up, and customers will understand that, and you know, they'll accept that. Now, don't be predatory and be like, oh, recession, I could raise my prices 200%, because you're going to make people bitter, and they're going to figure out that, you know, like you're trying to take advantage of them. But like holding your profit margin so that you could stay in business, so that you could serve your clients, is not a bad thing at all. I would definitely raise your prices.
Fair enough. Thank you. I do not see any additional questions, but I wanted to ask you, you mentioned people can email you if they have any question or they want to watch additional resources.
Yes.
Where could how could they get in touch with you?
Oh, just email me at nev@nevharris.com. Make the
Okay.
subject line, because I'm not a big email person, make the subject line GreenGeeks. So, and
Yeah,
I'll be sure to
Nev and
answer
Nev Harris.com.
contact you. So yeah, just GreenGeeks, say GreenGeeks webinar, say GreenGeeks, say recessions, say something so that I just don't.
To relate to this webinar. Great.
So
Okay.
that's, I'm sorry for the tech problems, because we could have got more into a lot of that strategy points, but yeah, I have all this expensive studio. I end up using $1,000 laptop. So thousands.
Okay,
of
just one
thousands
last note from Edward in the chat. If we email you, can you offer advice on ways to generate more revenue? Edward is asking. If there's
I'll see what I have. I might have some old webinars, might have some old training on it, might have written some blogs on it. I'll have to, I mean, I've been creating content for years. So let me see what I have that I could just send you. So yeah, definitely. So what Edward, what business are you in? You're in the copier business?
Yeah, I believe that from the comments he wrote, he's in the copier repair business.
So a lot of my stuff is based around service businesses. So like, you know, a lot of my training is people that don't have inventory. So because
Great.
then, you know, managing inventory and supply chains and all that kind of stuff gets more complicated. So yeah, so maybe some of it can apply.
Yeah, Copiers Plus Worldwide LLC, located in Stratford, Connecticut. Laura is asking, do you have a website with your presentations? You do, nevharris.com, right? Your site?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I'm like the cobbler with no shoes. It's not always the most updated in the world, but yeah, I have, I know there's a list on the media page. I'm pretty sure there's links to like presentations. So if you are in the WordPress community, like I've done presentations for a ton of companies that that you could probably find. If you go to the WordCamps like repository, I've done presentations, like I've done about 5 WordCamp talks or something like that. So iThemes has some great stuff. Like I've done several talks for them. GoWP, I've done some great talks for them. So
But they can check out your website as well,
yeah,
right?
my website is
nevharris.com.
nevharris.com. Yeah. So
okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nev. Thank you, Erica. Please keep looking out for our webinars. We have one a month. We will email you, of course, for the next one, but you can always check out greengeeks.com/webinars. There we will list all our upcoming webinars. And again, we will send a recording of this presentation to everyone in a few days. And thank you, everyone, for sticking around and asking questions. And thank you, Nev, for your presentation. And thank you, Erica, for your help.
Thank you,
We'll see you soon.
yes. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.